Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Friday discussion live stream on the channel for the Black Hood crew. I am the host, Darkness30XX, name across the top, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Also find me on TikTok, also find me on Twitch. This is live streaming across three of the platforms: YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. Find me all over. Also have a live stream going off, live chat going off there. Just loaded up on the right hand side here. So tonight's discussion will be on the flat Earth and why it's FOS. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, FOS means full of shit. That's right. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to go to desktop mode. Wrong screen. Let's get the other one. Much better. Let's go ahead and add myself here because, come on, really? And I'm just big as all heck. There we go. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First thing we're going to go with is nice fat list here. 10 easy ways that you can tell for yourself. This is outside of what anybody else can tell you as to why the Earth isn't flat. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. This one is pretty straightforward. The moon. Now, for anybody that's ever, well, looked up outside during the night and has two eyes that work, or relatively, if you got a pair of these, you will see this thing, the moon. Okay. Now, staring up at it, what shape does it take? It's round, right? Now, here's a wild idea, but the side of the moon that we see is always the same. Yeah, I know, wild, right? So when the moon is facing us, we only see the same side. That's why there's a dark side of the moon. And no, this is not a reference to the Pink Floyd album. The side of the moon that we see is constant as it spins around us. So every so often, the Earth gets between the sun, which is our source of natural light, and the moon casting a shadow. That's what this is. The phases of the moon is the overall shadow cast by the Earth onto the moon. A total lunar eclipse is when the Earth's shadow perfectly covers the side of the moon that we see. Thus, it goes completely black. We get a partial one, like you see here, some of the phases of the moon. You have, like a 2/3, a half, a quarter as it goes down. You also get, in some cases, red moons or the blood moon. Now, if you ever notice, the shadow is curved. The shadow the Earth is casting on the moon is curved. Curved. So let's say it again. It's curved. If the Earth was flat, it would not cast a curved shadow onto the moon at all. Now, for some of you out there, let's say the Earth is flat. Just for shits and giggles, just for the sake of argument, it is flat, right? And it was turned on its upside so that when you look up, you're looking at the moon, right? That would mean that the Earth is flat and it's actually tilted toward the moon. Well, if that were true, it would cast a curved shadow on the moon. But the other thing is that we wouldn't be able to see the sun at all, because then the backside of the Earth would be facing the sun. The only way that you can see the sun and the moon at the same time while still casting a curved shadow on the moon is if the earth was round. Not flat, round. Get it? Let's go to the next one. So ships in the horizon. Now, if you live in a coastal city, we're talking about Miami, where I'm at. You got quite a few on the coast. New York is a good one as well. These are port cities where ships are constantly coming and going. If you ever go to the beach and you see a boat, as it's sailing away or toward you, you have one of two effects occurring. And it's shown right here on the screen. Now, the top one is showing that blue line down the middle is the horizon. As something is coming toward you, it's going to get bigger and you're going to see more of it, like a ship. For example, let's take a sailing vessel. They have a mast and sails. Now, as it's coming up over the horizon, the first thing you're going to see is the top of the mast. As it continues to move toward you, even from a long distance away, you can see it. The mast is going to get taller and taller. You'll start to see some of the sails, and then eventually the whole boat will come into view once it's a fair enough distance closer to you. The opposite effect occurs as it's going away. You'll see it start to get smaller and smaller and smaller till eventually all you see is the top of the mast, and then eventually nothing. Now, did the ship just go over the edge? No. What it did is it went past your field of vision over the horizon, as demonstrated here. The blue line is again your field of view in the horizon. This right here would represent if the ship was closest to you. As it moves away, more of it dips below your line of sight. Eventually, you see nothing. The only way that would happen is if the earth was round. If the earth was flat, you would see this and it wouldn't change as it goes away. It would just keep going. You would see the whole boat as it sails away from you. It would never dip down. It wouldn't, it wouldn't disappear over the horizon. It would just be exactly the same. You would see the hull, the mast, whole 9 yards continuing off into the distance. Now, why doesn't that happen? Because the earth is round. Let's move on. Now, constellations in the night sky. Now, for those of you that are not into this in any way, shape, or form, some clusters of stars, if you draw lines between them, come up with a very crude image. A famous one is Orion, with the 3 stars making his belt. Very famous, easily seen in the night sky. The position of these constellations is constant in the universe. But the reason why we don't see the same ones in the same place is because Earth is round and it's actually turning. This causes constellations to move or appear to move from one place to another, even though they themselves are not the ones moving. We are. You can see here, if the Earth is round, you would see one constellation, but not another, which happens. If it was flat, you would see all of them at the same time. This is not what occurs. You want to take a perfect example? Right now on the East Coast, this is Eastern Standard Time. It is currently 9:09 p.m. It says it right down here. Let me move myself out of the way. There we go. So you can see it right there, 9:09 p.m. Okay? If you step outside right now, even if you have me on, I'll wait. Look up. What you see right now will change and move because Earth is round. Moving on. Now, for anybody that's ever heard of a sundial, if you have, great. If not, Let me explain what it is. So a sundial is a structure that we can make on a disc with a stick at an angle, right? Usually about 45-degree angle, right? When the sun is high in the sky, it casts a shadow on the sundial, on this stick. So the stick now creates a shadow on the dial, on the disc, which is a dial. Depending on its position, you can tell what time of day it is. What ends up happening is, on a curved earth, a stick placed in one place and then another one placed somewhere else, it may be the same time of day, but the shadow will actually be longer on one than the other. They'll actually have different distances based on how they're pointed at the sun. You can see that here by the yellow line. Those are the sun rays coming down. The stick, even though they're the same height, will cast different shadows in different directions based on where they are on Earth. A flat Earth, no matter where you put the sticks, they'd be exactly the same. Again, this does not occur. Nowhere on Earth does this occur. Moving on. Now, if you ever notice, if you wanted to see something, if you wanted to see farther away, you would actually go higher. Ever notice how if you're standing on the ground, you look, you can only see up to a certain point, but let's say you got on a ladder. You would then be able to see something further away. On a flat Earth, that would not occur. Two people, one above the other, would still see the same object, regardless of how far away it is. However, on a curved Earth, based on the curvature of the Earth and your line of sight, a person on the ground only sees so far. But if the object is just past the horizon, the person standing higher can see it, or at least the top of it, while the other person will not. This is what's actually happening. So if you ever wanted to see farther, you would actually get higher. You would actually see not only what the bottom person is seeing, but you would actually see further around the horizon. Not technically around it, because you can't see around things, but you'll see another edge of the horizon further out. This is what's actually happening. And these are simple things you can do simply by going outside and opening your eyes. Next, riding in a plane. This is so simple. I've been on an airplane. I know plenty of people have been on an airplane. And there's plenty of people out there that I don't know that have been on airplanes. Got on an airplane and look out the window. If the plane is flying high enough, you can actually see that curvature of the Earth, because you are literally miles into the air, which, because Earth is round, normally walking, everything appears flat, but because you're in an airplane, you're now higher up. That distance makes a difference. Now we're going back to this. Imagine this is somebody on the ground and you're in an airplane. Now we're talking about a great distance above. Not only would you see farther, but if you look toward the distance, you will actually see the curvature of the Earth itself. It doesn't appear like much, but is a noticeable curve. Now, the only real way to see the whole curve is to go into space. Only astronauts and foolish billionaires have been to space. But that's a different story. Number 7, look at other planets. Literally every other planet in our solar system, from the ones closest to the sun, Mercury, Venus, to ones further away from us, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, I said it correctly, Neptune, Pluto. All these other planets, including the sun itself at the center of our solar system, are what shape? They're round. So you're going to tell me that just us, is flat, while the other planets in our solar system are round, that the sun is round, but we on Earth just happen to be flat. That's, like, you don't see that? How little sense that makes, just on this concept alone. Moving on. Time zones. Like I said before, we're on the Eastern time zone. This is 9:16 p.m. right now on Eastern Standard Time. If we were to look at, say, Pacific Standard Time, it's currently 6:16 p.m. That's a difference of 3 hours. Now, if you were to call somebody on the West Coast, we're talking about California, Washington, Oregon, any of those states, even partially, that's the western edge of Canada, they're in the Pacific time zone, which is this time right here. So what ends up happening is if you were to call somebody in that time zone right now, this is what time it is over there. If they were to call here to the Eastern time zone, say in 3 hours, it would be midnight here. The only way that can happen is if the Earth is round. That's it. Like, there's no other explanation. Even if you were to try to apply this to a flat Earth, it would not make sense, because a flat Earth would have the sun directly above it at all times, which means, one, there would be no nighttime. It's one. Two, we wouldn't have time zones at all. They just wouldn't exist. So everybody would be sitting at 9:17 p.m. Oh, but wait, because the sun's constantly above us, there's no night. So that means right now at 9:17 p.m., the sun would be outside. I doubt it. Highly doubt. So next is the pull of gravity. Yes, gravity. Simple test. I'm going to take my back scratcher. Test for gravity. Well, it fell. Would you look at that? Now, it didn't just fall. What it is, if you don't understand what gravity is, it's the constant energy that pulls toward the center of an object. The bigger the object is, the more gravity it has, because the denser it is. In the case of the Earth, no matter where you are on the surface, if you were to throw something up, it's going to come straight back down. Not at an angle, not off to the side, but straight back down. The reason why is because it's pulling it toward the center. Gravity is constant here on Earth. You weigh what you weigh because of the Earth's gravitational pull on your personal mass. That's why two people standing next to each other can have various weights. One can be 100 pounds. Another person is 200 pounds. It's not because of anything other than the gravitational pull on a person is based on the size of their mass. The more mass you have, the more gravity you have. That's why on, say, the moon, if you ever seen that famous footage of the astronauts trying to walk on the moon, you can't. The gravity is so low that it makes walking nearly impossible. So what do they have to do? They hop. That's why. They have to hop. You can't walk on the moon. On a place like Jupiter, Jupiter technically has no solid surface. It's a gas giant. But let's say, for the sake of argument, it did have a solid surface, and you could get there and stand on Jupiter. If you were to go there and stand on the surface of Jupiter, you would weigh about 3 times what you do here. So let's say you weigh 100 pounds here on Earth. On the moon, you would weigh about half that. On Jupiter, it would be 3 times that. So you would go from weighing 100 pounds to 300 pounds on Jupiter because it's bigger. It's a bigger celestial body, thus generating a greater gravitational pull toward its center. If you were to take this same concept to a flat Earth, it would pull everything to the center, right? Well, if it was a flat Earth, everything not bolted down would immediately be pulled to the center of the flat surface of Earth. Everything. Like you, every animal on Earth, every bird, every chair, every car, everything not specifically nailed or fixed into the ground would be immediately pulled to the center and just be clustered on the center. All the water would be too. It would just be a ball of water on the center of a flat Earth. Everything on the outer edge would be dry and crusty. All the water would be in the middle, as well as everything not nailed down, which would include us, which means we would drown in a ball of water on the center of a flat Earth. Okay. Just making sure you're getting this. Lastly, pictures from space. Do I even need to explain this? You're looking at one right there. We have spent so much money over great many years sending man-made objects into space. Lots of satellites. That's what give us internet, TV, the ability to communicate with other people around the world is through these satellites. A lot of them, that's what they're there for. Many others, though, simply have cameras on them to get shots like this. Simply because you want to get the most up-to-date images of what the Earth looks like from space. This particular image, you may think, oh, some land. You see the lights here from the different cities, and you're wondering, where is that? That's Italy. The boot. This is Italy, just from a different angle. But you can see, up here would be where the border between it and forgot what the next country is. But you see the clusters of lights, the more brighter, those are the cities. The parts that aren't so bright, it's the open countryside. Italy. Fantastic, right? Yeah. So those are just 10 things that you can see right now to prove that the Earth is round as opposed to flat. Let's take it a step further. These right here are 5 impossible facts that would have to be true if the Earth were five impossible facts that would have to be true if the Earth were flat. We're going to skip these first couple ones and go straight to number 4. This one specifically has to do with the island chain of Hawaii. That's the 50th state in the United States. Mauna Kea, which is the highest peak in Hawaii, which is the summit of the Big Island, has some fantastic views. But because it's an island, basically surrounded by water. So what do? You take a look around, get some fantastic shots, and of course you look down the mountain, you see the beaches, the cities. You can see pretty much anything from up there. You know what you won't be able to see? The top of the 7th highest point of the Hawaiian Islands, on the island of, pretty much going to butcher this, Kauai, you have the peak known as Kaiwaikini. If you were to stand on Mauna Kea and draw a straight line, straight to the point Kaiwaikini, the distance is 303 miles. Oh, that's a long distance. especially if you're walking. That's just far enough for you to be on Mauna Kea and not be able to see Kawakini, even though it's only 303 miles away. On a flat earth, you would be able to see the entire mountain. The entire mountain that is Kawakini. But you don't. What you would actually see is that. Nothing. You wouldn't be able to see the tip at all. Wild, huh? Now, the only thing this does, this particular image, if you see, it looks like the horizon is flat. It's not. Let's take a different approach. Let's say you have say a basketball, right? A regulation size NBA basketball, right? As we know, it's not entirely smooth. It does have the little ridges for grip, and of course, the black lines indicating the pieces as they were welded together or melded together to create the sphere that is a basketball. Now, you hold the basketball in your hand, and you're thinking, well, this isn't flat. This is round. It's a ball. It's a 3D spherical shape. Completely agree. You cannot contest the fact that a basketball is round. You just can't, because you can hold it in your hand. Hold two hands, and you can rub around it. It's a ball. It's 3D. It's a sphere. Now, let's pretend for a minute that you were standing on that basketball, but you were almost microscopic. We're talking about smaller than an ant. From your perspective, the edge of the basketball, the edge of your known world, would look like this picture. To everyone else, we see a ball. But because you're shrunk down to that size, which is equivalent to, say, us standing on Earth, you would see a flat horizon like this picture. But in reality, if you were to zoom out, step off that basketball and back, it's round. Just is. It's round. Now we're going to go ahead and dive into a little bit of this particular monstrosity. On Netflix, there is a documentary called Behind the Curve. It came out in 2018. And in it, you got a bunch of flat earthers, supposed scientists, basically trying to experiment and try to prove that the earth is flat. Spoiler alert, they can't. But we're going to go ahead and cut to a particular experiment, which if you Google it, YouTube it, it's absolutely hilarious. So this is it right here. They went to an open field where they had these 8-foot poles. Not poles. Basically, they had these boards, right? Sorry, much closer distance. This is the one right here. So you have these two boards, right? The boards are at 17 feet, right? They're a fair distance apart. They have holes at a specific height. I believe it was 6 feet. So they have holes 6 feet, right? They set up a camera on one end, point it through, and then a gentleman on the other end of the second wall with a flashlight. Now, if the earth was flat, this guy could shine the flashlight through the first hole closest to him. It would shine through the second hole closest to the camera, and you would see the entire hole filled in with light. However, that's not what happened. What ended up happening is what's illustrated on this picture here. The gentleman held the flashlight up at 6 feet, closest to the wall closest to him. The camera saw nothing. Black. But the moment he held it above his head, guess what? Came right through both holes, right into the camera. Clear as day. You can see it right now on Netflix. These two people here. One of them is named Campanella. Watches when the light is activated at the same height as the holes, but the light can't be seen on the camera screen. He yells out to the other guy to lift your light way above your head. When the compensation made for the curvature of the earth, that's the light immediately being held up to a higher distance, it immediately appears on camera. His reaction, interesting. That's interesting. And then it cuts out. Why? Because they proved in the search for proving that the earth is flat, they actually proved it was round. You can't make this up. It's sad, but you can't make it up. Like, there's no writer on earth that could have come up with this. Simply because at this point, it's borderline ridiculous to continue to imagine that the earth is flat in any way, shape, or form. It's sad, really. You know, they've spent, I mean, this particular group, Flat Earth Society, which is what they call themselves, have spent tons of money, thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars, trying to prove that the earth is flat, and have nothing to show for it. In fact, in some cases, like the documentary there on Netflix, Behind the Curve, they prove the exact opposite, that the earth is round. Now you got to think to yourself, what motivates them? Why would somebody go out of their way to do this, to push this narrative that the earth is flat? And you got to think to yourselves, what the heck is going on? They can't possibly be serious, right? And yet they are 100% serious that they think the earth is flat. However, more recently than anything else, you've had people of some reputable standing have come out and said the earth is flat. There's nothing you can say to tell me otherwise. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. So right here, back in January 25th of 2016, a rapper, singer, Bobby Ray Simmons Jr., also known as B.O.B., released a track called Flatline, in which he disses astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson after the two had a Twitter battle over the sphericalness of the planet. B.O.B. is convinced the earth is flat. A day earlier to this particular battle, he tweeted that no matter how high in elevation you are, the horizon is always eye level. Sorry, cadets, I didn't want to believe it either. And then there's Shaq, who also thinks that the earth is flat, even though he's driven from Florida to California, saying completely that it's flat. Later, he said he was kidding. These people are real. These are people we know. These are people in our communities that quite literally have nothing better to do. These are also the same people that in a lot of cases will tell you the moon landing, fake, that gravity isn't real. They'll come up with anything to further their own agenda. What that agenda is exactly, I have no idea. Because there's no reasoning with them. There's no logic behind their thought process. It's merely, this is how it is. I don't care what you say otherwise. I don't care what proof you provide me. The earth is flat. Sound like anybody else you know? Okay. It is a problem that you have so many people who are willing to believe that the earth is flat, even in contrast to all of this evidence, video, photos, measurable facts, statistics, mathematical proofs showing beyond a shadow of a doubt that the earth is round. That's just how it is. Now, you don't want to take my word for it? Google it. Google how many articles, short of the couple that I was able to pull up, that have just simple proofs that the earth is round. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to show you something else. These images have actually been brought to me before. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back onto the screen here so you can see what I'm talking about. This picture right here is absolutely nuts for the simple reason. Look at everyone, short of the Australians, Australia, Slavic, the Chumash, the Masonic, the Egyptian. They're kind of out there in their theories of how the earth is shaped or how the world is built. Look at everybody else. Now you're going to tell me, oh, it's a flat disk and this is just, showing what the sky is. All right. Maybe I'll give you that. So if this is all they can see and they decide to put the dome over it, why bother illustrating the bottom half? They all do. Why bother illustrating the bottom half if you didn't believe that it was round? I'm asking the question seriously. Look at it. If they honestly believed it was flat, they would not illustrate the bottom half. It would just be like a damn snow globe. But it's not. The Greeks knew what they were talking about. The Navajo knew what they were talking about. The Mesa, the Babylonians, the Japanese, Vikings knew what they were talking about. The Celtic. It's all round, man. Look at it. Islamic, the Romans, all look like this. Round. Why bother illustrating the other half if you don't believe it's even there? It's because they did believe it was there. Simple as that. You got the Egyptians, the Australians, the Masonics. Yeah. theirs might not be round, but in some cases, it's not flat either. Look at this one. 4 towers. Where the hell are those towers? Holding up the sky? Where are the towers? The Egyptians? Oh, dear Lord. I don't even think they thought it was flat or round. They just never bothered to check. But look, even the Chinese, who have been around almost as long as a lot of these people, round. It's round. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. It's round. So many people across the globe, and I mean that literally, believe that the earth does not look like this. That it's not actually like this. Something crazy like this. Or anything like these other pictures. Because it's not. It's 100% round. It is. And it's sad because I know people who are subscribed to this. And every single time they come to me, say, you know, little comment here, Earth is flat, flat Earth. I just have to give them this look like, really? Like, that's what we're doing right now? No, we're not. We're not, because that's not how it is. Now, if you were to tell me something, you know, something else entirely, like, say, I don't know, maybe the solar system itself is inside a container and the outside walls are painted on, okay, maybe. That's because we haven't gotten that far yet. But until then, Earth is round, as are the other planets, as is the moon. Gravity exists. These are real things. These are things that you can't dispute because the evidence of them is all around us. You see it firsthand on a daily basis. It's just how it is. So, given everything that you've seen, in the comments below on whatever platform you're on, go ahead and give me whatever evidence you claim that the earth is flat. I'll take a look at it. I'll even do a rebuttal TikTok on it so you can follow me there. But at the end of the day, the earth is round. Anything you come up with that says otherwise, sorry, buddy, it's not. That's just how it is. You know, you got to give me something that is measurable, a repeatable experiment, not a one-off, not a one-time thing. It has to be repeatable. That's how science works. They don't just say something because it only happened once. They say it because they can prove it by making it happen again and again and again. Like gravity. No matter how many times I pick this up and drop it, it's always going to fall down because gravity. That's it. So we're going to cut it out here for tonight. By all means, like, subscribe, comment away, follow above, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Chat's always open whenever I'm streaming live, so put in your 2 cents. On Twitch, by all means, follow. On everything else you find me on, like, subscribe. If you want to keep seeing more of what you see here.
Your question. According to Wikipedia, Earth is the planet we live on. It is the third planet from the sun.
Alexa.
It is the only...
That's enough, Alexa. Hilarious.
This might answer your question. According to Wikipedia, Earth is the planet we live on. It is the third planet from the sun.
Alexa, stop.
It is the
Fun. So, by all means, like and subscribe all across the top here. And by all means, hit me up wherever you want. You guys have a good night and stay smart out there.